figured it out.
He's like, hey, man, the party's here. I'm chilling. We got to live on Sundays. I got the beach here, Miami games. It's amazing because you get to play ball every day.
Yeah, no, exactly. And around the world, too. But, yeah, man, I think, like you said, I get to hoop every day. I get to travel the world and hoop and teach along the way as well. So it's like I wouldn't want to have it any other way. And so I was in a hotel, by myself for 10 days. I'm like, all right, well, I feel fine after the first day. Let me just start writing some ideas down and like try to explain my philosophy. Next thing you know, it's like that first week, I probably wrote 50% of what the book eventually was, and then refined it over the next 2 or 3 years because they don't understand, like, hey, you're not going to make every shot if you shoot the basketball. They just haven't done enough to understand that. You have to literally be a therapist before you can be, any sort of coach or trainer. So
you need to get on with some of these guys on the Magic, man, on my team, man. Yeah. Get their shoot percentages up.
Hey, they know where to find me, man. They know where to find me. Thinking of people who've been in our gym, I want to say, funny enough, Bismack Biyombo is one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet.
What's up, ballers? Welcome to Courtside Culture Podcast. I'm your host, King Apollo, and this is a podcast brought to you by Basketballverse. Today, on episode 3, we have a very special guest. Our first 2 episodes, we had a basketball player turned tech. Second episode, we had an international agent. And today, we have somebody very special, and that is Coleman from By Any Means Basketball. So Coleman is a lot of things. He's a skills trainer. He's a coach. He's an author. He runs a basketball organization as well. He travels around the world, and he does a lot of cool things. He's also a very successful YouTuber with over 500,000 subscribers. So we got a really special guest today, and I'm very excited to talk to him. Coleman, how you doing today?
Not too bad, man. Appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. And if you don't know, this podcast is brought to you by Basketballverse, and Coleman will be joining the Basketballverse team as one of our partners, and we'll get more into that later. But I like to start the show off. You guys know we like to learn about our guests. So for our community that doesn't know you as well, Coleman, let's just give them a brief introduction of who you are and what you do and what your job entitles.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, you covered it. Like, I find myself doing a lot of things, 99% related to basketball. So I guess, number one, I'm located here in Miami. This is our gym, Detail Miami. We train players here, have tournaments, run teams out of here. Pretty much, everything that you could ask for out of a gym. I do player development, so skills training, basketball performance training, as well as coach some teams here. And then, like you mentioned, also travel around the world, try to bring as much quality basketball, knowledge and experience to people around the world who may not have, the same resources that we got here for basketball in the States. And then also try to make a good amount of content to put that out to, again, like try to even the playing field, make sure that the kid in, the middle of, Asia has the same level of access to good basketball that, we do here. So that's a little bit, could go in a lot deeper, but I guess I'll hold it at that for now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's amazing what you're doing. I really, as a sports fan and a basketball fan, I appreciate it because, like you said, in these parts of the world, these things aren't readily available for people. I feel like YouTubers play a big part in the education process now, right? All around the board, not just from basketball, but to anything, right? Many a times where I'm like, yo, I got to figure something out. YouTube University, right? Yes. Hop on and you figure it out. So I commend you on that, man, because I'm pretty sure it's a lot of kids that are like developing and they can't afford that coach or they can't afford that trainer that's top tier, or they don't have that just in their area in general. So huge up on commending you on that. Like, so where did that start? Like, where did that love start? I was reading a bit of your story. I see like your journey kind of started at 16, but where was the like, listen, I want to be a helpful person in this actual industry and build players and help foster, because you work with players from all the way young, all the way up to the NBA level. So how did you come to that decision?
Yeah, man. So it started, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, which is like historically a really, really quality basketball area. So, everybody just grows up playing there. So for me, it was like a natural thing to do. And then, I always tell the story of like, I was a 5'8" white kid with a bowl cut and like trying to compete with, future NBA guys. And it's like what else am I going to do other than just work my ass off and try to figure out how to get better as a basketball player, just to, stay with that rising tide. So that's kind of how I fell in love with like improving from a basketball standpoint. And then that led me into like, okay, if I can do this for myself and see results in myself, maybe I can help other people with that. So just like other of my teammates started coming in, I would put them through drills. They were terrible, but they were better than nothing. And then, bit by bit, more and more people started to show up. I'd get reached out to by other people in the area. And this is when I was like 16, 17. So I was just kind of an unofficial trainer, I guess, then. And that, through that process, seeing improvement, being able to stay around basketball, even, I was still playing then, but like looking towards the future, like, hey, basketball is all I know, honestly, which is, good or bad is to be debated. But basketball is all I knew. If I end my playing career, this is the most seamless way to stay in basketball, and, pretty much hoop and help people out for a living. So that's kind of how it came about. And then the YouTube came along, some other things came along, and it only made sense to just keep rolling with it.
Yeah, and your YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, your most like viewed videos are your like in-depth analysis, correct?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I've went through a few of those, and you really get in depth. Like you really understand. You understand a lot when it comes to the game. Just like I can tell, just structure and movement and player tendencies and things like that. Like you're very knowledgeable, and you can tell that you've been doing this. I don't know how old you are now, but you've been doing this for a while, and you really take it serious. The On top of the in-depth analysis, you also do like skills training and stuff like that to help people out. Did you find it difficult kind of like starting up that? Did you have early success with the YouTube stuff, or was it kind of a building process? I know I'm a content creator and I've been doing this for a while, and I understand like sometimes people get lucky and like they hit off the rip, and some people kind of have to build for a few years. A lot of people think like stuff's overnight, and we're like, nah, dude, like we've been doing this for 10 years. You just found out about me overnight. So was that like a tough transition?
Yeah, so at first it started off just as like a hobby. Like I was still playing. So I was just doing like little film breakdowns, trying to notice players' tendencies and apply that to myself. And, I would edit the video. It was terrible editing, but I would get it done just so I could watch it. And then I'll put it on YouTube just to be like, all right, here's like a database of, videos that I've created to essentially help myself.
Yeah.
Then next thing you know, like a couple of them get like 1,000 views or something. I'm like, oh, wow, like 1,000 views. That's crazy. And then like we started making these little documentaries where it's like us running around at 16, just training and, living like a dreamer basketball life. And those started to get like 3,000 views. I'm like, oh crap, like this is growing. People are kind of invested in it. And then I kept going with it. I tried to get better at the editing side of things and study like, how to actually communicate these things. And the next thing you know, it's 5,000 views, 7,000 views, 10,000 views. And it's like, wow, this is like actually growing. I didn't even really mean for it to grow like that. So then I'm in a point where I'm like, okay, the worst thing that I'm always scared of is that like my platform exceeds my knowledge, because I don't want to have a huge platform and then give out terrible knowledge, because it's just
exactly
like, that's how you spread bad knowledge to people. So
yeah,
that's when I really had to lock in on like making sure I knew what I'm talking about for the next couple of years. But it started to grow really fast. And I think partially because, I really haven't seen, and, there very well could have been plenty of this beforehand, but I didn't really see any like player breakdowns before, I just randomly threw those up on YouTube. And again, I'm not saying I'm the first one to do it, but it was early in the process, which I think people like enjoyed that unique idea. And then my goal was always just to bring new ideas to the table in an industry that I felt like was kind of stagnant. So, that first like growth process was actually faster than most. And it was just lucky, but that was 6 years ago. And now, like you said, it's a bit by bit growth process to like, okay, where do we go from here? Let's make sure that we're still pushing and not just satisfied with like a quick growth at first. So yeah, like you said, it's a slow, monotonous at times process to continue growing it, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah. And as you can see, you've been doing very well, and commend you on that. Keep grinding. I know it's tough from one content creator to another, YouTuber
Oh
to
yeah.
another. It's super tough out here for us, especially I think it's a little tougher once you get to that point, and just trying to keep that same like viewership up and stuff like that. I got a few friends that's up there. I know it's tough, but we'll dive more into like the YouTube and like struggles on that a little bit later. Kind of want to talk about you went to the Miami
Yeah.
University, University of Miami. I'm sorry, and you got a degree in strength and conditioning. First off, I've heard a lot of stories about going to the U at school. First off, I want to know like what was your experience at the U? I was a huge fan of the U actually back in the day. Back when it was the old is it a heron, right? The heron mascot, where it was like the skinny one with the really long beak. I had one of those jackets, the varsity jackets, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite jackets. And I've always heard so many great stories of like people who went to the U and stuff like that. How was your experience at at the University of Miami?
It was solid, bro. I think being down in Miami is what you make of it. Like for me, it was tough because I was planning. I mean, I devoted my whole life to playing college basketball, and I get to the point where I can play Division III basketball, and then like a couple other schools that were like, yeah, like we have an opportunity for you, but it's like not full scholarships like you'll see at Division I or Division II level.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity right in front of me, something that I was working for my entire childhood to play college basketball. But I also had this idea of like, all right, I want to set myself up for the future. And I was already training. So University of Miami got the opportunity to work with the team and like kind of fill in like a walk-on manager spot the first year. And got a full scholarship somehow through that. So that was kind of like a decision that made itself where I was like, all right, don't pay and like set myself up for my future career or keep this whole basketball dream thing going at a D3 for the next few years. So I got down there and it was like, I didn't know nobody. Literally everybody else that I was on my team went to play college basketball. I'm the only one who's like kind of in the middle of like this walk-on manager spot. So it was tough for the first year, man. But after that, and like after the first year, I really dove straight into like the training side of thing and just grinding that out day by day down here in Miami and building my own base. That's when I started to really find like a rhythm and enjoy it. But yeah, man, the U is what you make of it. Obviously, like you get different pockets of people. You get the people who are got their daddy's credit card and swiping it at Live and 11 every weekend.
For sure.
And then you got, people who I would typically be around where it's like, it's like a typical week, right? Other people are out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to take advantage of being in Miami, but you also got to lock in and make sure that those distractions aren't hindering your future. So it was definitely eventful, man. And it's still, Miami's a crazy place, as you know. It just like things that you see on a day-to-day basis, just walking down the street
are insane.
It's crazy. So yeah, it makes life interesting.
Yeah, I tend to go to Miami a few times a year. I actually was just telling you, like, I'll be out there Thursday for the UFC 299 event.
I forgot that was here.
Yeah, it's this weekend. But yeah, Miami's a different animal. I actually watched a documentary on the U, and it was this guy who was just like stuck. He's just like stuck in the U. He got entwined into that party, the culture of being on the beach and all this stuff. And he's still there to this day. He goes to every U game. He's like basically like he's still in college. It's actually a crazy documentary. But that's kind of like why I want to ask you about like your experience at the U, because he was just like it was just parties after parties and you're on the beach and it's insane and you just can't really focus. And he was just like, I just stopped going to college, ended up staying here and just being like a Miami resident forever based off of that. So that's really cool to see.
Man. He figured it out.
He's like, hey man, the party's here. I'm chilling. We got Live on Sundays. I got the beach here, Miami games. And
Crazy.
The thing is, Miami, I think the U is like, in my opinion, one of the better schools when it comes to both sides of the ball, right? Football and basketball. I feel like some of those schools in Florida are like one or the other.
Right.
And the U does a really good job at both. So it's like also the sports culture there is crazy.
Yeah.
I just love it. But so you leave the U, okay? So the U is basically your start of like, all right, I'm going to be a skills trainer. And I feel like it's a hard decision, but a smart decision to realize like where your place is in the actual space. I feel like a lot of people go for one thing and then they're like, if I don't make this, it's
Yeah.
nothing. But it's also always pockets where you could live and be. Because if that was the case, right, JJ Redick wouldn't have a show right now, right?
Yeah.
Or Kenny the Jet Smith wouldn't be on TNT, right? There's pockets where you can lay, and the good thing is to figure out those things before it's too late, right?
Right.
I feel like you did a really good job with that. I mean, I'm pretty sure you would have preferred to have a lengthier career and do stuff like that, but to be able to find that pocket and to be successful in it and still do the thing you love is amazing because you get to play ball every day.
Yeah. No, exactly. And around the world too. And around the world. That's why I put it like I could say I'm a professional basketball player. I'm not, like, I would never say that. And I've actually gotten offers to go and play in like pretty solid leagues internationally. But it's still the same thing where I'm just like, it's delayed gratification, man. Like even when I was younger, I was like, look, I would freaking love to go and play 4 years and then chase, potential pro career or whatever. But then I would get to 28 years old and I'll be like, okay, let me get started on my true calling versus being 18 and being like, all right, let me get started on my true calling, which, nothing is ever too late, but 10 years of like prime years being able to work on your dream is unmatched. But yeah, man, I think, like you said, I get to hoop every day. I get to travel the world and hoop and teach along the way as well. So it's like, I wouldn't want to have it any other way. And it was looking back on it, very good, I guess, self-constraint to be able to make that decision.
Yeah, I was having a similar talk with Simon about his transition from like being a basketball pro to being a tech, soon to be tech mogul, right? And it's tough. It's tough for guys. Like I did the same thing. I'm like into music. I've been doing music since I was 12 years old, and then I had an album coming out, and COVID hit, and it was like, you can't perform, you can't do anything. And I had to kind of make a transition of entertainment of like, hey, I still want to be an entertainer, but I can't do this right now. So where do I place myself? Right. So I've had a similar thing. So I definitely understand. And it's cool when you can circle back around and still be able to do that thing. So let's talk about your book, man. Deep Skill, the basketball coaches and player guide to understanding and developing true skill. Um, Definitely in-depth title, and I'm pretty sure the book is amazing. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. But for the people who are looking into finding books like this or, might be interested, what is this book entitled and how did you get to the point where you're like, hey, listen, I'm gonna write a book about all this cool stuff that I'm learning?
Yeah, no, great question. So I guess to give like a little backstory behind it, obviously for like, the first 5-6 years is just like learning, experimenting, trying things out. And then I feel like there came a point where, like, I don't want to say I wasn't learning anymore because I absolutely was, but there would be things where I would start to test things out that are like opposite of my general philosophy. I'd be like, I think what I'm already doing gets better results. And it's like, it was this kind of consolidation process of like, okay, I think I've figured out like what my philosophy is in terms of developing good basketball players. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it kind of perfectly aligned with like COVID, like you say, with a lot of people where, I mean, this is 4 years ago now, but I got COVID when I was in LA doing something at a camp or I can't remember what. And I had to move out of like one of my buddies who's in LA. I had to move out of his spot into a hotel for like a week. It was like 10 days because it was like the beginning of COVID, like, 10 days. So I was in a hotel, by myself for 10 days. I'm like, all right, well, I feel fine after the first day. Let me just start writing some ideas down and like try to explain my philosophy. Next thing you know, it's like that first week, I probably wrote 50% of what the book eventually was and then refined it over the next 2 or 3 years. And what it essentially came out to be is like, it mentions it in the title, but in a more expansive sense, like it's how I feel what I feel skill actually is. Like a lot of time we think of skill, for example, just like what you can do with the ball, I'm not going to go into the whole topic, but like it's a very limited sense of what we consider skill to be. And then all the different methods that I've used in terms of how to build it and then how it can be applied on a more practical sense to players, to coaches, stuff like that. So Yeah, I try to make it like a good balance of like, sciencey stuff, like freaking studies, but then also just making it like an art and making it more practical to a player reading it. So that's kind of how it started. Never really expected to write a book, but now I'm like, all right, I kind of want to write another one at some point. So it's a fun process.
And it's dope. You're giving your community or people like that are interested in you on this, you're giving them many avenues to ride on to get to the end goal, right? You have your YouTube channel, you have the book they can read, and you also have in-person like clinics and camps and these training and workout sessions that you're doing in person. So it's cool to see like you have multiple avenues. And I feel like that's a big thing when you're creating a business or a like a conglomerate like this, or where you're having all of these skills and skill training readily available for multiple different levels. So I love to see that, man. That's super dope. I heard you talk about like working with players from multiple ranges. Could you like explain like the complexities and challenges you have from like training players at different skill levels and different I guess you could say uh places in their journey, right? Because you work with guys from kids all the way to NBA players. So what's the complexity and challenges that you kind of face with working with such a broad range of players?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to like skill level is easier to figure out because you just progress or regress how difficult what you're doing with them is. Like, with a high level professional player, obviously you're going to have to find different ways to challenge them, but you're also going to be a little bit more specific. They understand the game better, all these things. The toughest part to deal with and like mold your training around is like the personality side of things, I guess. Like if you're working with a beginner player, which I don't work with beginners as much anymore, but I have plenty in the past and I still do at times just because it's fun for me. It's about somebody who's really eager. They're just getting into the game. Like maybe they get a little bit frustrated because they don't understand, like, hey, you're not going to make every shot if you shoot the basketball. They just haven't done enough to understand that. And so the like managing them from like a personality sense is way different from managing like an egotistical NBA player who comes in the gym and they're like, I know everything. And I mean, it's not that all of them are like that. Some of them come in and they're super hungry. You got high school players who think they're the shit, and you got high school players who come in and they, the confidence is just not there. You have to literally be a therapist before you can be, any sort of coach or trainer. So I think the skill side of thing is easier to figure out than just like looking at people from a human perspective at different parts along that journey and being able to tailor how you communicate, what you're talking to them about. And then, the whole nine around who they are as a person at that point and what they're going through. So, that's something that I try to focus on a lot and try to continue to educate myself on is how can I be just a people person? How can I obviously not be a therapist or a psychologist, but kind of serve these roles in some ways, since most hoopers aren't going to see a therapist and they won't because there's just a stigma around it. And if I can be somebody who can be even half of that, then that's perfect because they'll open up to somebody on the basketball court way more than just talking over a Zoom therapy call.
100%.
So yeah, man, that's the tough part, but it's what also makes it fun and super dynamic.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear that because as like a former like athlete and competitor, like you don't want to talk to a therapist. You don't want to talk to these guys, your coaches and your trainers and your comrades on the court, field, whatever you're on, are usually those people that you consult. And so to have somebody open-minded and understanding that from the beginning really helps. And I'm pretty sure it's very beneficial for the people who do work with you. So speaking to people who do work with you, uh, what are some of your like success stories? Like who are some of the guys that you work with, maybe at a international NBA level, or maybe one of those guys that you worked with through high school and they ended up having a pretty decent career or getting to that top level? Do you have any good success stories you like to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the way I always answer this is like I find more success in I find more like, I guess, enjoyment in taking like an early high school age kid and having them make the varsity team or even get to college. But even like, let's say you take a kid who's just not that great. Like they weren't meant to play basketball. They don't, they're not a natural, but you help them make a varsity team or you help them get to a point where they want to be at. That to me is way more fulfilling than like, hey, there's an NBA guy in town. I'm going to train him for a week and then post a bunch of stuff on social, which is obviously good too. And it's fun to work with high level guys, but there've been like stories of kids that have come in this gym and like literally have not known how to play basketball. And now they're, competing against some of the top players in the area. And that to me is like, again, so much more fun to look at because it's like, I don't want to say anybody can train an NBA player, but it's a lot easier because they kind of know what they're doing. Like they're already at such a high level versus like again, an early age athlete who's maybe just getting into it or has hit a plateau. So that's typically what I like to spotlight. We've had plenty of them and, certain guys who have really locked in and gotten to even like a low level D1. It's like, hey, I'll take that over again, like the highest of the high. But we have had some pretty good success stories, whether it's, players shooting 15% from three and then the next year going and shooting 50% and averaging 30 points, like crazy stuff like that. But yeah, man,
maybe you need to get on with some of these guys on the Magic, man, on my team, man. Yeah, get their shoot percentages up.
Hey, they know where to find me, man. They know where to find
me. Listen, I need to make a call to Orlando. This guy's in Miami, man. We need him over at Orlando. I mean, they're doing really good this year. They're doing really good this year. I'm proud of Orlando Magic. We have a very young team, a lot of young guys.
Years to come.
Yeah, it's if Orlando holds them, man. That's their thing. They like to let guys go. And I got a question about that later. We're gonna talk about something about that later. So what you say you do work with some NBA players? Who are some of the humblest ones you work with? Because you said they could be a-holes to like very humble. Who are some of the most humble players that you've like had a chance to encounter and work with along your journey?
Man, all right, so these would be some random answers, but just thinking of people who've been in our gym, I want to say, funny enough, Bismack Biyombo is one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet.
Like, I get that though. I get that from him. Like,
dude, bro. Like, I personally didn't work with him. One of my guys, Dave Love, was training him in the gym, and dude comes in just smiling, like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. We got. It's funny because most of like the international pros that we train, like guys who play in France or in Asia or beyond, like 99% of them are super high character players, whether they're guy or girls, and it's partially because to be away from your family for 9 months out of the year and like go through the struggles of playing international basketball, you typically have to be a pretty high character person. So like, I really enjoy working with players who, play at the highest level, not necessarily the highest level, but we've worked with some pretty high level, like international players as well. But I can't say D'Lo Russell is a pretty good dude, honestly.
Shout out D'Lo.
Spot a few times. And he's always like professional, make sure to shake everybody's hand. And even stuff like that, where it's like, you are a professional at the end of the day. And you can tell the players who actually take it seriously to like come in a spot, even just, again, greet everybody in the spot and not act like you're a superstar. Like that always gains some respect from me. So I'm missing, plenty of them, but that's always like a good sign for me to see and be like, all right, that's a good dude.
Yeah. I love D'Lo. D'Lo's one of my boys, man. I'm not too happy. I like D'Lo and Bismack. They're just on two teams that I just cannot as an Orlando Magic fan. You're on the Lakers and the Miami Heat. So it's like I own both of their cards on fantasy and stuff like that. But I definitely wish they would go away from those teams for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm still hurt from Shaq leaving Orlando. I don't care. People can say whatever they want. I'm always going to be that guy. Shaq's a Laker. And that's just me. Like Shaq's a Laker. So let's actually kind of like we're gonna let's get into that, right?
All right, cool.
Let's talk about some basketball news, some basketball stuff that's been going on. A real big topic lately in the last year, this season really has been basketball statues, right? And we've seen Kobe Bryant's went up on what was that, 224? I think they did it on or something like that. Which was amazing and well-deserved, right? Well-deserved. Probably the best player I've seen in my time. I caught Michael Jordan on the end of his career. I'm 30 something. So I seen Michael play with the Wizards. We ain't gonna talk about that, right? So how do you feel about these statues? And then that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, do you feel like Shaq, because also they're saying Shaq's supposed to get an Orlando Magic statue and Allen Iverson's also getting a Sixer statue. Now, in my opinion, I feel like 2 out of 3 are deserved.
Shaq,
One of them, I feel like it should be a Lakers statue. I don't feel like it should be an Orlando statue. Now, I understand, yes, you were drafted there, but what did you do in Orlando?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I don't see that one.
Yeah. So, but how do you feel like, so we're in the same one now. How do you feel about like Kobe Bryant statue and then Allen Iverson, which was the one named, I think they did it yesterday or the day before. He'll be getting one in Philadelphia. How do you feel about these statues and immortalizing these players? And do you feel like these statues are deserved from these players? I mean, Shaq's statue is definitely deserved skill-wise. That's not what I'm saying. He's one of the best dominant bigs ever, and I would never take that away from him. I'm just butthurt because he left Orlando, right? So I feel like it deserves to be beside Kobe statue or something, right? But do you feel like Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant are well-deserved?
Yeah. I mean, I think Kobe's is definitely, I mean, like you said, that's kind of an easy one. I think they could have had a better statue for it, but you know, I ain't a statue builder, so I'll leave that to the experts. But I think Kobe, you know, they should give essentially whatever the city or the organization wants. Just like, because I look at cultural impact if I'm thinking about something like that. And I mean, everybody in LA, and LA is a massive city, with the exception of the weird 5% Clipper fans who are just going against them, they grew up idolizing Kobe and playing basketball because of Kobe. And so it's like, that's a no-brainer. To me, AI is kind of in the same boat where it's like, did he win a championship? No. He took him to a championship and lost to, you know, 2 of the best players ever. But I think from like a cultural standpoint, that's something that I think the NBA, not just the Sixers, but the NBA should emphasize even more, is like how much Allen Iverson changed the game and how much like all these things that they're starting to push in the NBA over the last 10 years or whatever, whether it's like crazy handles, whether it's like, you know, getting into the culture a little bit more, like a lot of this stems from Allen Iverson. So
exactly.
I think that's definitely deserved, not only from a skill level and like accolade standpoint, but just from a cultural standpoint. I think the NBA should be emphasizing even more like how much Allen Iverson actually meant to their league.
I'm glad you said that, because Allen Iverson is by far my favorite player ever.
Really?
Yeah. Super dog. I mean, I grew up late 90s, early 2000s. So, I mean, it was the AI and Kobe, Shaq era, right? And I feel like AI would have won if he had some more help, but he was just one of the most dominant, and he changed the game. And I feel like that too, that like when you get into that GOAT conversation, that's usually where a lot of the like older guys land at, is like, hey, how did they impact the game, right? Shaq got on the court, you had to play different. Allen Iverson got on the court, you had to play different. Kobe Bryant got on the court, you had to play different. And they structured the league around beating these people, right? Same thing with Steph Curry and Golden State if you go back 5-6 years. Nowadays, it ain't quite the same, but you know, the reason it isn't the same is because those people impacted the game so much that the whole league had to turn around and make a halt on which way they were going and kind of go another direction to stop these guys from becoming a crazy like Larry Bird Celtics dynasty, right? So yeah, definitely, I definitely like that answer. For sure. Like I feel like a lot of them is deserved. Some of them placements aren't the best, but you know, it's definitely a cool thing to see these players get immortalized. I think Shaq definitely deserves one. I think it'll look good beside Kobe instead of in LA. I mean, instead of in Orlando, but
for real.
So yeah, man, that's really dope to hear. So let's get into this because this is Courtside Culture Podcast, which is brought to you by Basketballverse. And one of the main reasons we actually have you on here is because you're coming on in the team as a partner of Basketballverse. So kind of, I guess I'll let you kind of explain like what you'll be coming to Basketballverse for our community, to kind of show them like what we're doing with building these partnerships out. This is one of many that we're building out. Like we said, guys, we're trying to be a global hub for basketball, all things basketball. So we're bringing you a bunch of cool stuff, and I let Cole like basically explain like what we'll be bringing to you guys for that.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be bringing just the basketball, I guess, improvement side of things to Basketballverse, and whether it's, you know, you're a competitive player or just somebody who's a weekend warrior, 40 years old, you know, trying to play once a week and be better when you play. Like, I think that's the beautiful thing about not only what I do, but what like the basketball, like skills training and coaching industry has done is like, you know, I get 60-year-old woman doing programs, you know, the same programs that, you know, like a potential college player is doing. And I've worked with, you know, guys who will come in after work, like their corporate job, and who work out. So I think it's a beautiful thing where it's like basketball is this window through which like you can just see improvement, you can stay healthy, you can meet people, and like everyone wants to get better at it because of that. Even if it's not like NBA level, you want to improve and just be decent at basketball. So hopefully, you know, for the entire community, we can do that through, you know, our virtual academy programs, which will be pretty big discount on those, through camps that we're doing around the world. Like, you know, if you're in Berlin during our Berlin camp, like, you know, we'll have a discount and be able to come to that pretty seamlessly. We'll have players that will be sent to our camps here in Miami to develop and kind of, you know, spread the word. So there are a lot of things that we want to approach through this. And, you know, even a lot of it is just kind of promoting each other, obviously making sure that I can bring as many people as possible to this beautiful, like, global hub of basketball. And then, you know, everybody within Basketballverse kind of coming and just even as simple as watching the YouTube videos and saying like, okay, now I can think about the game in a little bit different way. Now I can have like these 5 workouts that I want to do for just to improve and stay healthy, or to grind it out to become a professional player. So I think I'm really looking forward to it. Again, I think it's going to bring something unique to the community, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're excited for you to be a part of it too. Like I said before we spoke, I heard a lot of good things. I went through your channel, was very impressed with the knowledge and everything. So to be able to have you on the team to do these things is amazing. Maybe I got to come out to Miami and see if I could get me a little ball mixtape. Maybe I still got it in me. I was actually watching. My mom sent me some like old VHS tapes that she found, and she was showing me like my basketball stuff. I was like, oh my God, I was terrible. I did get one shot off though. Dude came down. I cherry picked it. I cherry picked the pass. Dude came down. He bit on the pump fake, went around him, threw it up. I was like, hey, I had a little bag. Not the biggest bag, but I had a little bag. But if you're trying to build your bag up, man, we're gonna be working directly with Coleman with discounts on the By Any Means Basketball Virtual Academy. We'll definitely be growing together as far as his channel and what we're doing here. And we'll be sending out some people to the summer camp soon, but more details on that soon. We'll keep you updated as we go along. But before we move on about Basketballverse, what intrigues you with your conversation with Simon to make you want to come on to Basketballverse? I can say like mine was more of just like being able to, like, I'm very aware of worldly stuff. And like you travel a lot like me, right? So you're in these different places and you can see like how in America we are very privileged and blessed to have a lot of things that we have, and it's not the same around the world. And I think at us being in this like pseudo American bubble, we don't think about that, right? And my big thing was, where are these guys in like the European guys getting their stuff from? And where are these guys that are like India or the Philippines or Japan, where it's really going big? Like, where are they getting this information from? Where are they going to for a basketball? And is there a spot that actually has it globally, like for all of the things they like, right? And that was the reason I came on. Was there anything that really intrigued you about the project? I was just like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm down.
I think it was the same thing, honestly. Like just anything from like an international standpoint that tries to bring people together and bring people closer to resources. that's always like, at least intrigues me. And then obviously talking to Simon and others and seeing how dedicated they were to that mission, I think it was a no-brainer. So definitely the international side of things and just like the community feel of it was the big thing.
Dope, yeah. Same here. So I'm glad we're all on the same page. It seems like majority of us at Basketballverse are all on the same mission and goal in life, and it's just bringing basketball to the people who don't really have the opportunity to always have it there, right? We had a lot of stuff in the background that we're working on, helping people like being able to view these games and stuff. And I know it's tough, dude. Like, I just know as like an Orlando Magic fan living in North Carolina, I mean, if you don't have NBA League Pass, what games are you watching, right?
Oh,
so it's a lot that's like barriers and kind of like gated to like NBA and basketball in America. So hopefully that changes soon, and we being part of that, that mission to get this stuff out of the way and move these gates out, move, stop gating, let these people in, right? So we're working on that together, man. And I appreciate you being a part of the team, and I'm excited to see what we got coming, man, for sure.
Yeah, man. Me too.
All right. So today we're gonna try a little something new out, man. I don't know what I want to call this segment yet, but I'm gonna rattle off a few prompts, basically, few words, and the first thing that comes to your mind is what I want you to say. All right. So I'm just gonna rattle off a few. We're gonna go quick. We're gonna do this, and then we'll close it out. All right. So first one is your favorite basketball shoe.
Favorite basketball shoe. KD4s.
KD4s. That's a good one. I like the KD3s, actually. I'm a KD3 fan. I'm a fan of the strap. Yeah. All right. Most overrated player.
Oh, man, that's a tough one.
It is. I'm going to say Ja Morant.
Yeah, I was going to say that simply because if he's not like the best ability is availability, and he's a electric player, but he's never on the court.
Exactly.
And it's sad because I really like, what he brings to the game. But I think especially these days, like if you got any player who's really talented, but are only playing 40 games, can they really be considered, at the standard that they are? So yeah,
exactly.
I may have to agree with that.
Ja Morant. Okay. Most underrated player.
This sounds crazy, but I do think in the general community in America, Jokic is still the most underrated player because he's two-time MVP.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, best player in the league right now, and people still don't respect him simply because he's not flashy.
That's a fact.
I get it. And
he doesn't look like a ball player. He doesn't. Exactly. If you walk past him on the street, you're like, he chops logs or something.
I guess, But for me, it's like that's what makes it interesting because like you don't have to be, he's tall as hell, but he's not like a freak athlete. Dude can barely dunk, and he's killing the NBA. And he's international, which makes it better. So, I think in America, he's super underrated.
All right. Best shooter ever.
Steph.
I love you for that answer. All right. The biggest bag on the court. Who's got the biggest bag? I was going to say the same thing. I'm glad we're on the same page with that one. Kyrie is all around the board. I mean, from shot adjustments to his dribbling bag, handles. It's insane. All right. And then the best dunk bag.
What we're talking in-game dunks?
Yeah, let's go in-game. No dunk contest. We're not even talking about a dunk contest right now.
Shout out Mac McClung, though.
I love Mac McClung. Yeah. Kissimmee Magic.
Oh yeah. Dang. I got to go Ja, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive because we just said a little overrated, but when like some of the dunks he's had recently are absurd. So,
but that's what leads to that,
right? Yeah,
overratedness because I feel like he's super flashy. This is the thing with me. Ja Morant's a great player. I don't get it twisted. Off the court, you can say whatever you want about the guy. On the court, when he's on the court, he's a great player. He's very electric and very explosive. But the thing is, I feel like the flashiness adds on, and he's such a electric figure and persona that it kind of succeeds like where he is actually on the court. Now, I'm not saying that he can be one of the best players or, underrated players or something like that in the league. It's just that to me, I feel like it's more flash than skill.
Right. For
It's
sure.
my opinion. I'm not nowhere near. I'm just a fan, right? So slay me if you want, but that's just how I feel about it. But I do respect all those answers. I like those answers.
Yeah. Seems like we're on the same page for
yeah.
all of them.
I agree with you on most of the majority of all of these. So that's good to hear, man. That's his answers. I love them. All right.
Yes,
so before we're gonna close out here, make sure you guys, first off, By Any Means Basketball is Coleman's YouTube channel. We have talked about it. Make sure you go subscribe, check it out. He's got a lot of good stuff, from the regular basketball fan to an aspiring basketball player to just a basketball enthusiast. You're gonna love the channel. He has a lot of great stuff. Check him out. He also has a website, which is byanymeansbball.com, right?
Sir.
Yes. Byanymeansbball.com. We'll make sure we put all of that in the description. And also make sure you follow us on all platforms: Discord, Twitter, YouTube. We're posting a lot of new partnerships. This is one of them. And we have a lot more to come. So make sure you do that. And we're going to go ahead and head up out of here. But is there anything else you want to say to the people before you leave, or, you know, to the Basketballverse community?
I think you knocked it all out, man. Sounds great to be, part of the this growing community. Excited for it. You guys stay tuned. I'm sure you'll be hearing my voice a decent amount if you're a part.
Let's go.
So yeah, man, I'm excited to keep growing.
All right, man. And me and Coleman gonna work on that mixtape, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. I'll be down there soon. I think I could beat Casanat, bro. I think that's what we need to do is we need to train so that we could play against Casanat. I know I got a little height difference on him, but maybe he's been training in the gym. I seen his all-star performance. I'm not too sold, so I feel like we might be able to work something out, bro. So
I think you got him, bro. I think you got him.
But I appreciate you, brother, for real, man. I hope this isn't our last conversation. I do want to do something in the future. Hopefully we can get some content done down in Miami. I'm out there a lot, so it'd be really dope to come by the gym, check out the gym, and do some stuff like that. But I'll let you go. And to all our Basketballverse fans and Courtside Culture fans, this is episode 3 with my man Coleman Ayers, and I'll see you guys on the next one. So, deuces.